All right, the first thing I'm doing is I'm gonna prep my area. So how I do that, I take a sponge, get it wet, wring it out, pretty much wring out as a lot of the water. And then what I wanna do is I wanna create kind of a tacky surface here. That'll make the clay stick a little bit better. So I'm gonna kind of just get all that dust cleaned off of there. So running my sponge along it. And I really like to have a clean area, as clean as possible as I work, so I might overdo it a little bit, but that's okay. Okay? So if you look, it's just kind of shiny. Like this is even maybe too wet, so I don't want it to be wet. If it's wet, the clay's gonna slide off of it. So I want it to be, like I said, tacky, if I can get it that way. Okay. Then I'm gonna kind of dry my hands a little bit. If I had a towel, I just kind of wipe them off or kind of clean them off here. And then when I place my clay, I want to place it as close to center as I can. There's different ways to place it. You can do like a little cone. I like to just do kind of a clay ball. And what I'm gonna do with that is I'm just gonna take it and kind of smash it as close to center as I can. And that's important that I get it close to center because that's gonna save me some time later on. Okay, so I'm gonna take that clay, I'm just gonna kind of get that as close to center as I can get. And then as I start working with it, what I need to do now is I need to center it. Okay, so there's two steps that I like to do when I center it. If I start pushing towards the center right away and trying to center it, it's probably gonna try and slide or move around or kind of move off of it. So the first thing I like to do is, as it's spinning, I'm just gonna take kind of the palm of my hand and this part and the open palm, and I'm gonna press down on it a little bit, and I want it to be nice and wet when I do that, and I'll show you all those steps in a moment. But I'm gonna kind of press down, and that's gonna give me more of a suction, so it's gonna really stick to that piece, okay? Then after I get that done, I'm gonna center it. I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out the best way to center it. What I've found is that a lot of times when people struggle with centering something, when they struggle with centering the clay, it's because they want to control it two ways. They want to try and control it on the top and on the side. But really what you want to do when you're centering is all you want to do is you want to get the side centered. So when you see me center it, I'm going to press, and I'm just going to kind of go right up to the edge, and then I'll just kind of push it so that the clay rises up a little bit. So it'll just kind of go like that, and you'll see it'll start to kind of make this little cone, and it'll center at the bottom and then kind of cone towards the top. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, you can see it's really wobbly right now, and I just keep my bucket nice and close to the potter's wheel here. Okay, so I'm gonna create that suction, I'm gonna press down, okay, and right away, it's getting, I'm displacing clay, so it gets dry. I don't want it to be tacky, I want it to be kind of slick, okay? So I'm gonna press down again, and I got a good suction on there, so that seems like it's gonna stay. And now I'm gonna center it. So I take, and I'm just gonna press towards the center, and kind of up a little bit, okay? If it's not wet enough, if it's kind of dry, and I'm not taking and pushing up like this, because that's going to pull this off of the wheel, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm pressing and just kind of following it. So I'm going this direction. I'm not pushing it upwards, I should say. Okay, so I'm going to go again. And you can see it's kind of coming up and coning a little bit. Okay, so now that I got it centered, I'm going to go ahead and stop it so you can kind of see what that looks like. Okay, so you see all this extra clay around this part here. I used to be really worried about that, and I would really try and press all of that and everything, but that would wear my hand out, like it would actually wear the hair off of my arm because I would have it so pressed hard against that bat that it would like rub all the hair off and skin off, and it wasn't fun. Okay, so what I do now is once I get to this point, I'm just going to take one of my clay tools, tool like this, with this angle, any tool that kind of has a little bit of an angle, and as it's spinning, I'm just going to hold that tool and I'm going to kind of come down and kind of just slowly clean all that out of there. Okay, so I'm going to get that spinning again, and the speed I'm at, it's all the way as fast as it'll go. So I don't want to come too close to it. I just want to kind of clean. So I'm cleaning up here, cleaning up there. Okay. But you need to make sure you have it centered before you do this cleanup, okay? And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna continue to use water, but I see a lot of times when people will take their sponge and they'll bring the sponge out over it and then the water flies off of it and things like that. You don't need to do that. You just really need to like realize kind of get a feeling for your clay. It should feel like, see this slimy stuff right here? That's kind of what your clay should feel like all the time. And I actually use this slimy stuff, as gross as that sounds, but I'll put that on my hands and then I'll use water as well. So now I get kind of like this really slick coating on my hand, okay? All right, so now the next step is it's center, that's step one. And then what you want to do is you want to cone up and cone down. I used to kind of skip this part, or I would only do it once. And I have found that this step right here is one of the most important steps in the process, because what it does is when I cone up, so I'm going to press and cone up. Okay, so I'm just kind of creating a cone. Okay, just like that. And then I'm going to press it down and compress it. So what it does is it's compressing my clay. It's making it more dense, and that's going to make it stronger, so it has a less likely chance of falling over. Okay, which is really important. Okay, so you get this cone, and then you do kind of like this. Looks almost like a mushroom, I would say. Okay, so it's compressed. I coned it, and I'm going to do that one more time. So I'm going to cone it up again. And as I do this, I want to make sure I'm kind of keeping it centered. I don't want it to get off center. And I'm pressing. I'm not pulling up. Again, when they say pulling clay, you're not really pulling. You're just pressing towards the center, and the clay has no other place to go than up. So I'm not pulling it up. I'm just pressing towards the center, and then I'm kind of following it. Okay, so there's another cone. I'm going to compress it again, or cone down again. Again, you can see I just kind of keep going back to my water. That's why I like to have my water really close, is because I just kind of go back and forth to my water. Okay, it's getting a little off center here, so I'm going to kind of fix that. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of clean up my bat here with my sponge. If you have like extra stuff that's gotten on there like this, you can see there's a little bit of a lip there. I can come in with this and clean it up again. That's fine. Whatever you feel comfortable with, it's up to you. Okay. All right. Now I like to slow it down a little bit when I open it up and pull it and pull my walls. Okay. So I am going to slow it down a little bit. And I really don't work with my foot on the pedal. If you kind of get comfortable with it and you like having your foot on the pedal to control the speeds, that's great. That's actually what you should do. It's just never been anything that I've wanted to do or anything that I've learned. So I don't do that. Okay. To open it then, what's called opening the clay, And you can see it's still going pretty fast. Like I don't slow it down a lot for this. I don't need to. If it's too slow, you'll have problems. You just have to get comfortable with working on it when it's kind of spinning like this. Okay, so to open it up, I'm going to take it, I'm going to press my thumbs into the center, and that's going to start to open it up for me. So you can see I already kind of took and flattened it out with my thumbs like this. Okay, I'm going to start with my right thumb, and I'm just going to press that down into the center. Okay, if it starts to get dry, I'm going to add more water, and like I said, I think it's better to just keep dipping back and forth than to like taking and wringing water in there, just because to me that goes flying everywhere. It makes a mess. It's not something that I think really works that well, so I'd rather just continue to kind of go back and forth with that water. So, all right, so you can see I got it opened a little bit. I'm going to take my middle two fingers right here, and I'm going to put those in the center, and I'm going to put those straight down. And I'm kind of doing more with my my middle finger right now. I'm just kind of using that. Okay, and then what you're going to do, this is where it gets a little tricky, because a lot of times you'll want to, they say this is where you pull the wall. Okay, so if I take my fingers and I press and I pull up, what happens is I get a really thin top and I have a really thick bottom. Okay, and I don't want that. Okay. So what I'm actually going to do is I take these fingers, I put my two fingers in there, I kind of curl them like this towards the outside, okay? And I kind of create like this little pocket in here, all right? And then what I do is I move these two fingers up, and I just kind of follow with my other hand underneath those two fingers. So these fingers are kind of pulling up, and this is just keeping everything nice and straight as I pull up, okay? So I'm gonna put those two fingers, I'm gonna kind of pull them towards my left hand, and I'll stop and show you here what it looks like. So you can see that little pocket there. Okay, so you can see I have this little pocket right here that I can put my fingers into. That's my pocket. For the base, it's fine to leave a thick base here, like this right here. This is pretty thick. I'm not worried about that, because when I do my trimming, after I cut this off and flip it upside down and trim, I want to have kind of a thicker base, because I'm going to trim a foot into there. So really don't get concerned with taking this all the way down so it's a super thin base. I used to get really concerned about that, but I ruined a lot of things because I was so worried about that, and it's not a big deal in the long run. Like, it's actually pretty easy to trim this off, flip it, and then carve that foot into it. Okay, now the fun part, I'm gonna pull it up. So right now, I'm not worried about any shapes or any, like, what it's gonna look like or what it's gonna be. None of that really matters right now. I just really wanna get a basic form. And once I get that basic form, then I can change it and mess with it and do some fun stuff. But right now, I just want that basic form, okay? So again, I want my hands to be nice and wet. I get that slimy stuff on my hands. And then I'm pressing in with this hand and pulling up with this hand, okay? And just going nice and easy. And if it starts to get kind of dry, I can go back and get a little bit more water and do that again. You can hear it's kind of wobbling a little bit. So if I need to get it back centered up again, I can do that. What I'm doing here is I'm gonna kind of take and cut my hands and kind of come up and form it back towards the center. And I want my wall to be consistent. So like I want the same thickness at the bottom as what I have at the top. And you can see my clay, it really wants to go out. Like that, the spinning force, it pulls it so it wants to go out. You can see it's kind of doing that right now. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, and again, I'm just gonna kind of say, well, I don't want it to go out, so I'm just gonna kind of help it stay towards the center here. So I'm kind of taking it and curving it in. Okay. Getting a little wobbly on me. Okay. What I need to do is I need to trim this top. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pause right there for now. Okay. So all of this is really good and lined up and nice. This top part is not. Like this part's a little bit lower, this is a little bit higher. So what I want to do is I'm going to take a needle tool, right here, my needle tool, and then as I'm running it, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go from the side, and I'm just going to press that needle tool in, and then it's going to clean up the rim.
Oh.
All right, so get it spinning with my needle tool. There it is. Okay, so now I have a nice clean rim. I'm going to check. It's still a little kind of off center, so I'm going to mess with that, keep it center. I'm going to continue to kind of pull my walls up. I'm going to slow it down. It's going a little bit too fast for me right now. If it's going too fast, I can have some problems with it. That's pretty much it. Now it's just a matter of kind of cleaning it up and making it how I want. Okay, so for this, I'm going to make just a simple mug. It's really wonky on me though. I don't know why it's not cooperating. I think there might be an air pocket in there too, so that's just something else you have to kind of learn to deal with. All part of the process. Yeah, it's twisted on me. It's got an air pocket, so this is gonna collapse on me. That's fine. It happens. We'll see if I can kind of fix it, but I don't think this will be something I can fix. Oh, nope, there it goes. Say goodnight. Oh, yeah. So what happened here is I either got an air pocket in it or some kind of imperfection happened. So that's what happens is it just kind of tears and falls apart. I mean, that's a part of it. That's normal. Okay. So now I have a couple of options. I can take and I can scrape this off and I can start over if I want, and maybe I just want to make a smaller little dish or something like that. I can do that. I can clean this up and just use that base, and maybe I'll just make a little tray for salsa or something like that, or a little dipping sauce container. Okay. So again, I'm going to kind of go through those steps. I'm going to bring it to the center. Opened it up. Since this is kind of small, I don't really need to slow it down if I don't want to. This will work out pretty good though. something I can put, you know, ketchup in when I'm having French fries and ketchup. I don't know. You decide. I sound like Bob Ross right now. Make a happy little bowl. Happy little bowl for my French fries. Little swimming pool for my ketchup. Okay. I think I had too much Mountain Dew today. And then, you know, the other thing is you just don't want it to be too thick. I'm just not really sure what the measurements would be on it, but I'm trying to figure out the measurements, how thick you want your walls and all of that. So there's my little dipping bowl. Hey, you know what? Turned a negative into a positive. So now I'm just going to kind of clean it up so you can see the finished process here. One thing I would recommend is, you can see it's easier to go small to start, you know. So for the first thing you make, don't try and make like these huge things. Just try and you know, do what you're able to do. And you know, all of this stuff has a purpose. Like this has a purpose. I've made bowls, I've made mugs, and the thing that I actually get the most like requests for and compliments are on little dipping bowls like this that I make, because you can't really find these anywhere. Like you can buy a mug, you can buy a bowl, you can buy a plate, but they don't have like really kind of cool little dipping bowls for like ranch dressing for your hot wings and stuff like that. Or if you do sushi, this would be really good for like your soy sauce and some wasabi. Okay, so I'm going to kind of clean that up a little bit, clean up my base a little bit, and I'm going to use a different tool now, because this is a little bit smaller than what I was thinking. Let's see. So I'm just going to use this little guy here. You can have some fun with your design. You know, one nice thing about working on the potter's wheel is the symmetry. Like, it does the work for you. So if I want to do some designs and stuff, I can do that while it's spinning on here. So I'm going to do this at a little bit of an angle, and then I'll carve my foot onto this later, but this is just going to kind of give me that a little bit of an angle that I want. So it's easier to remove from the back. And then I also like to use one of these metal scrapers, and you have to be super careful when you're using one of these because they will gouge your clay. So just be very careful when you're using this. But what this does is it kind of buffs the clay, like it gets any excess water off of there, and so that it dries faster and it's not tacky. And you can get a similar effect when you're using a sponge, but I just like this works a lot better. And then I'm going to do like a little design on this. So I'm just going to take this clay tool and I'm going to just press this into the side right here so I get this line. It's kind of a cool effect. That would be really hard to do if I wasn't out using a potter's wheel, to have like a line that goes around my bowl. So again, use it to kind of benefit what you want to be doing. All right, so let's stop. there's what I have. I'm gonna clean this edge up a little bit. There's just some small little imperfections on there, so I'm just gonna kind of clean those. If I wanted to do a design on the inside, I could do that too. Like, if I wanted to take this and just do like some lines, I could do like the spiral. Let's do that. I'll take this clay tool here and press this into the center and just kind of pull it out. So I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, so there's a cool design. Just kind of adds to it, right? All right. So like I said, we started out, I was gonna make this mug. I had this idea in mind, but you know, the Potter's Wheel doesn't really care what you wanna do. So you kind of have to adapt with it and go with it and kind of do what you can. I take my wire here. Notice how this is all clean, or as clean as I need it to be. I'm going to take that wire, and pull it in between my two hands. I'm not sure if that's in the camera or not, but I'm going to kind of twist it, and then I'm going to hold it and take my thumbs, and I really want to press that down tight against the clay bat here. So see how I'm kind of taking my thumbs and pressing that, and then I'm going to pull, and some people turn it on when they do this, I don't. I'm just going to pull that across, and that's going to remove the clay from my bat there. See how it's sliding? All right, and there's my finished, well, pretty much finished. At this point, I just need to let this dry a little bit. So what I'll probably do is I'll put that in a bag and let it sit overnight. Come in right away tomorrow morning at like 8 o'clock, pull it out of the bag, let it sit and dry for about 2 hours maybe, and then flip it over, and then let it dry for another hour to 2 hours, and then I'll take my clay tool and I'll trim it. So tomorrow I'll show you how to kind of trim that foot on there. So you have this nice little cool clay bowl with a foot. I don't want to touch it right now. That's the other thing. Anytime I touch it, it's going to leave little fingerprints and smears, and like it's perfectly symmetrical right now. If I tried to move it and touch it, it's going to throw that off. So I'm going to just leave it on this, and I'm actually going to let it, before I even put it in the bag, I'll probably try and wait as long as possible, 45 minutes to an hour, before I even put it in the bag, so that some air can get to it and it can dry it out just a little bit, so that it doesn't warp when I put it in a bag. So I'm going to remove it from there, and then that's it for today. So there's my little ceramic ranch dressing, or whatever you want to dip in there, dipping bowl.